Hey gang, and welcome back. You know, when they first printed Duretti Scrap Savant, I thought I finally had an artifact deck that I could call my own. But unfortunately, Commander 2016 came along and shook things up. This week we're going to look at the new Mistress of Machines. This is Breya Etherium Shaper. Now, if your meta is anything like mine, as soon as a new commander set comes out, you usually get a huge wave of all these new commanders. Atraxa seems to be this year's Marin and Duretti respectively, and I feel like she's taken up a lot of the spotlight, which is unfair to Breya and Yidris. But we're not going to get into that this video. Unlike a lot of the other artifact-themed commanders, Breya offers us diversity, whereas the others tend to be more focused. In a deck like Duretti serves us as a way to recur artifacts, pitch artifacts, and use his ultimate to be able to overwhelm our opponents with artifacts. Similarly, Arkham Dagsum is all about getting him out, then being able to protect him while using his activated ability to find whatever artifact you need to win the game. Now don't get me wrong, I love Arkham Dagsum and I love Duretti. Both of them are really fun, flavorful decks. Breya offers us diversity in the sense of A, she's 4 colors, so that means we have access to blue, black, red, and white cards that all deal with artifacts and or are just good on their own. Her ability also offers us a great deal of diversity as it has 3 modes, plus she comes with her own artifacts when she enters the battlefield. None of the other artifact commanders can say the same, but this could also be because they're usually 1 or 2 colors. In most EDH decks that don't run green, you need to rely on mana rocks to be able to ramp out spells earlier than other decks. The problem is, at a certain point, drawing those mana rocks is not exactly helping you win the game. Breya kinda helps fix that problem, as you can play them and then sacrifice them to her ability, causing damage, creature removal, or life gain, versus a deck like Duretti, where when you draw this kind of card, you have to make the decision between using his minus ability to bring something back, or his plus ability to get rid of it and hopefully draw something else. Breya offers a huge amount of versatility in what you can do with these cards. She's also pretty much a win condition on her own, as she can kill opponents very easily when you have an infinite combo, or if you have a ton of mana and a ton of artifacts. So I'm sure you can see by now why I'm so shaken up over whether or not Duretti is the best artifact commander in EDH. Having said that, now let's take a look at some of the EDH cards that'll help her bring her to the top. As I mentioned before, mana rocks are a great way to ramp in EDH when you don't have the access to green, and an even better way of doing it is with Chief Engineer. Being able to use our creatures as ways to cast our mana rocks, which then in turn can cast bigger creatures, is great tempo. Swinging for 1 or 2 points might be good if there's a planeswalker on the field, but more often than not, it's not going to make a huge difference in the end game, so then why not turn those 1/1 creatures into mana? And if tapping your creatures for mana isn't your thing, then why not consider Master Transmuter? For only 1 blue and tapping her, you're able to put any artifact from your hand onto your field for the low price of returning an artifact back to your hand. I'm pretty sure trading a Soul Ring plus 1 blue mana for a Wormcoil engine is a pretty good deal. You also might want to consider Grand Architect, who not only pumps other blue creatures by +1/+1, but he also allows them to tap for 2 colorless mana for artifact spells or activated abilities. You can also consider running Foundry Inspector, who makes all artifacts cost 1 generic mana less, or Herald of Kozilek, who makes all colorless spells cost 1 less. Sure, the Herald won't hit all of the spells in your deck, but it'll hit all of the artifacts, which frankly is probably going to be most of your deck. Now, let's look at some other cards that care about artifacts and whether they die or they come into play. Filigree Angel is a great way to gain life that isn't related to Breya sacrificing artifacts. I've seen this one card gain upwards of 15 life, and all you have to do is use Master Transmuter and return some mana rock and cheat it out for 1 blue. Disciple of the Vault is a great way to make opponents have to think about whether or not they want artifacts going into our graveyard. Sure, they can blow up that mana rock, but do they really want to take one to the face? It also has the added benefit of not caring who controls the artifact, and instead only cares about an artifact going from the field into the graveyard. In the same vein of Disciple of the Vault, Marionette Master offers us a way to punish our opponents by causing them to lose life whenever an artifact we control goes to the graveyard. Yes, she costs 6 times as much as he does, but she has the added benefit of being able to do more damage or bring more artifacts into the field. Not as aggressive, but still ultimately very controlling, Ether Sworn Canonist is a great way to put the brakes on a lot of opponents. If your meta has a lot of Spellslinger decks like Melik, this is a great way to stop them from going crazy. Moving away from creatures, I think Time Sieve is probably the #1 artifact that I recommend running in a Breya deck. Having Breya sit in your command zone alone means at any time you have 60% of what you need to take an extra turn, as long as you have the mana for it. I also spoke earlier about an infinite combo with Breya, so let's look into that. So the first step of the combo is to have Breya, which is easy enough since this is a Breya deck. Next, you need to have a special card, a card by the name of Nim Deathmantle, which if you've seen any of my videos, you know Adam likes to use and abuse. Nim Deathmantle offers us a way of being able to bring back a creature creature card from our graveyard for only 4 colorless mana. This is important. The last piece of the combo can actually be one of 2 cards. It can either be Ashnod's Altar, which allows us to sacrifice a creature for 2 colorless mana, or Cart Clan Ironworks, which allows us to sacrifice an artifact for 2 colorless mana. Assuming Breya is on the field and you have at least 2 artifact or creatures that you can sacrifice to either of those outlets, you're able to go infinite with either colorless mana or servos. The combo works as such. You sacrifice one of the servos or one of the artifacts, generating 2 colorless mana. You then sacrifice Breya to the same method. Having just created 4 colorless mana, and with Nim Deathmantle's trigger on the stack, you can bring back Breya, either generating more mana by sacrificing the last servo and getting 2 more, by netting more servos by always sacrificing Breya and one of the servos, netting 1 for every cycle you go through. Now, having infinite mana and infinite servos is all good and fun, but what do you do with it? You can either cast a giant X spell like Exsanguinate, draining everyone at the table for a billion life, or you can kill every player at the table with Breya's deal 3 damage to a player ability. The choice is entirely up to you with how you want to play the deck. Although usually at that point, unless someone has a Krosan Grip, I think the game's pretty much over for most of your opponents. Naturally, there's a bunch of EDH cards that are very good in any kind of artifact deck. Cards like Fabricate, Enlightened Tutor, Demonic Tutor, Vampiric Tutor. Breya is at no loss for being able to tutor cards to the top of your library or to your hand. Furthermore, with spells like Open the Vaults and Scrap Mastery, bringing back all of our artifacts to the field is not a hard thing to do. If I could make one sort of harebrained suggestion to run in this deck, it would be Duretti, Ingenious Iconoclast. His first ability provides us with valuable jump blockers, and also fodder to sacrifice to Breya or his own second ability, and his ultimate is great. Because I mean, it's kinda bad when you have to only blow out one opponent with 1 Blightsteel Colossus, when it's much better to blow out all 3 opponents with all the Blight Colossuses. Anyway gang, that's my take on Breya. I hope you like her as much as I do. I am seriously considering revamping my Duretti deck into one, so let me know what you think about her. Feel free to check back every Monday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a new deck tech, primer, or top 10 video. And as always, thank you for watching, and please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more.